private podcast. It's been a really long time since I've done this. I think well over 2 years. And I'm really rusty and I'm a little bit nervous and I don't even know how this works anymore. So please bear with me. There's a lot of reasons why I haven't been podcasting, and probably the biggest one of all is everything that's been going on within the knitting community over the last year. I'm just going to dive right into this. If you are unaware of what I'm talking about, consider yourself very fortunate. I wish I was you. And you may want to just kind of speed ahead to where I actually talk about knitting and sewing and things that are nicer to hear about. But I would be remiss not to discuss the things that have been going on, especially since on Instagram I have tried very hard to speak out against the things that have been going on and trying to build a community of like-minded individuals who also see the extreme wrongness in what has happened. I don't know if that is correct English. I don't actually care. It sounds good. In a nutshell, I'm not going to really recap things too much. I'm going to assume you know what I'm talking about. But right away, in case you don't know where I stand, I'm going to tell you flat out. I disagree entirely with what has gone on within the knitting community in the last year. Starting with Karen Templar, moving on to Maria Tuscan, to Nathan Taylor, and so many more. I started to make a list of all the people that have been affected by this. Kate Davies, Knit and Nibble, Melanie Berg. It just keeps going. It's absurd. I disagree with all of it. Does that make me a racist? Fuck no. By the way, I swear quite a bit. Just an FYI. Does that make me uncaring or unconcerned about marginalized people? No, it doesn't. See, it's possible to disagree with the bullshit that has gone on within the knitting community over the last year and not be called a Nazi. All right, I gotta slow down here because I'm already getting riled up. Yes, I'm drinking wine for my nerves. I think it's really important for me to say, first of all, that I want to welcome everyone to this podcast. I want to welcome the people I disagree with, the people whose political views I differ from, the people who think completely opposite of me and disagree with me and my decisions. You're all welcome here. I try not to judge people based on a photo on Instagram or a little sound bite. Before I'm going to do that and decide whether or not I like you, you have all the right in the world to be here and tell me who you are. If you're an asshole, then you're just an asshole. And you gotta live with yourself. And good luck to you. But seriously, everyone is welcome here. The division that's happened over the past year has been so disheartening and so working against the things that these people claim to be working for. There has been no unity going on within the knitting community. It's been an us or them mentality. And from the very, very beginning, I felt that something was really, really wrong with this. My first introduction into this woke culture was over 2 years ago, actually, and it was in a fiber-related group that I'm part of on Facebook. And it was around the time of the Women's March that takes place in January. And if you have watched this podcast, you will know that I have partaken in that march. I've marched. That's what I'm trying to say. I've knit pussy hats. I've done all those things. I went this year. So 2 years ago, this discussion came up in this group, and it was a bunch of women saying that if you're going to wear a pussy hat or make a pussy hat, don't make it pink, because pink isn't inclusive. So right away, it's just ridiculous that I have to even explain this. Whether you agree or not with the whole pussy hat thing, there's just a few facts that should be known. It was a metaphor, right? The hat was a metaphor. I'm not going to go into the quote. We all know what our president said. That aside. The color pink was not representative of the color of skin. And this is where this argument really fell apart for me. And I proceeded to say so. And I was told, well, if one person is offended by this, then it needs to change. Interesting logic. One person can complain about something, and then the whole world has to change for that. So I said, well, wouldn't it be better for that one person to understand the situation instead of jumping to incorrect conclusions? If you were that person, wouldn't you want to know, oh, wait, I've been mistaken. That color pink doesn't represent my pussy. Probably because it doesn't represent any woman's pussy, right? The color pink is the universally recognized color of femininity, in as much as the color blue represents masculinity. Now, outside of the occasional balls, I don't really know any blue men. Perhaps a rare blood disorder. I don't know. I'm really going off on a tangent here, but I just have to lay the foundation for the absurdity that then followed. I kind of came away from that interaction. I was told over and over, well, you need to educate yourself, blah, 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 blah. All I know is that common sense didn't seem to exist in the land of make-believe that I had just paid a visit to. And I really didn't even quite realize that this was as prevalent as it is. I really thought this was a small group of people who had lost their ability to have a rational thought. I don't know. It was very baffling to me. I remember telling my husband, you're not going to believe this bizarre situation concerning pussy hats and making them pink. And so that year I knit a new pussy hat because I had given my old one away. I needed a new one. And I used the only pink yarn that I had on hand, which was a variegated yarn that had many shades of pink. So I received comments like, oh, this is so much more inclusive. This is wonderful. This is not why I used that yarn. And why are we turning a pussy hat into something that needs to be more inclusive? It is inclusive of all women automatically because of what it is. Okay. I know some of you listening think the whole pussy hat thing is a bunch of nonsense, and you are completely within your right to think that. And I will allow you that, and I hope you allow me this. The point being is that this was the first time I witnessed the erosion of rational thought. So now we come into the year 2019. Karen Templar writes a blog about her upcoming trip to India, and all hell breaks loose. And when I tell people this story, when they question my posts on Instagram and what has provoked all of this and where is this all coming from, and I tell them that it all can be traced back to a metaphor comparing a trip to India as being unattainable and impossible as a trip to Mars. And then I'm silent, and I let them try to work that out in their brain and figure out where it all went horribly wrong. And they can't. Because it didn't. It never went wrong. What went wrong were the people that chose to make an issue out of something that didn't exist. No longer were they able to give someone the benefit of the doubt and realize that a comment like that was innocent. But they had to make a deal of it, a big deal of it. We all know what happened after that, and it just escalated from there. And heaven forbid someone like Maria Tuscan come along and put up a post on Instagram that says, I'm uncomfortable with this current environment, so I'm going to take a little break. Horrible. What a horrible, horrible thing to do. I mean, this is sarcasm, by the way. So I saw that post go up when it went up. And I remember thinking, well, thank God somebody's saying something. Somebody with some influence is saying something, because this is a shit show. This is ridiculous. There's no rational thought happening here. This is like letting the 4-year-olds on the playground suddenly be in charge. And what happened to her preceding her post is really pretty unbelievable. And again, when I tell this to people and aware of the situation, the looks on their faces it's just unfathomable what happened to her. And then not too long after that, we have Nathan Taylor's infamous poem. I also saw that go up pretty much the moment it went up. I spend a lot of time on Instagram. I tend to see things as they happen. And I remember sending Nathan a message, and I didn't really know Nathan. I had met him once at Rhinebeck. I've always enjoyed his podcast. And I sent him a message right away and said, bravo to you for speaking up. And I was so happy that somebody with some influence was speaking out against the complete and total bullshit that was taking place all over. And I thought, oh, wow, here we go. Somebody that has some influence, somebody people respect. He's got a wide reach. He's got a big audience. Maybe this will wake people up a little bit and make them realize that it's gotten completely out of control. How wrong I was. What happened to Nathan is still something that I sit back and shake my head over, because it's such a, I mean, I feel like if this was in a movie, you wouldn't believe it. You'd be like, oh, that can't happen. People aren't that horrible. Yeah, people are that fucking horrible. They truly, truly are. People made it their mission to destroy his life and his business, his mental health. And they feel justified in having done it. And that's the part that really blows my mind. I think when you have lost your ability to have empathy for one another, if you can sit back and watch what happened to Nathan and feel good about it and feel like it was justified and deserved, you are lacking fundamental qualities of humanity. And wow, you need to take a step back and take a look at yourself. So here we are. It's 2020 now, and it continues. There are moments when I think it's getting better, and I think it is getting better in that there are more people that are willing to speak out. I started speaking out on a regular basis, probably right after Nathan's video came out where he spoke about his side of the story. I had dabbled in speaking out here and there on Instagram since the beginning of it all, and it was very clear from the very beginning that that was not going to be a welcomed opinion. I would put out calls for kindness and compassion for your fellow man, and I would get messages saying, we are so disappointed in you. Really? Because I want people to be nice to each other? Because I want people to treat each other kindly. I don't actually encourage the ruining of somebody's life and driving them to suicidal thoughts or ruining their business that disappoints you? Interesting. Well, I can assure you the feeling was very mutual. My disappointment in those people is beyond disappointment. I lost quite a few followers, and it's not like I have a ton to begin with. And that's fine. Goodbye. Take yourself far away from me, because I don't need that. But something else that struck me about all of this, and you have to understand that I come from a very interesting background. I was raised in a religious cult. I practiced shunning of my own father for the better part of 15 years because I thought I was supposed to, and I thought I was doing the right thing. I now am shunned by very close family members and have been for a number of years. I have been completely cut out of their lives because I've spoken out against their policies, and one of them being shunning. It's funny how that works. When I started seeing all the bullying taking place and the manipulation and the threats being made, especially amongst people with more influence on Instagram, there's been a lot of, if you're still following so-and-so, then I'm going to unfollow you, and I'm going to encourage everybody else to unfollow you, and if you don't do what we're saying, then your fate is going to be the same as Maria and Nathan and any number of other people. These are control tactics that cults use. When I'm talking about cults, what I'm really referring to is a handful of tactics that are used to control people. These are tactics that can be found in any organization. It's not just religious. It can happen in the workplace. It can also happen in a one-on-one relationship. It's really all about making people question what they know, feel that they're wrong, make them feel bad about themselves. Putting fear into them over losing something, whether it's losing their family and their friends, or maybe it's losing their business, their followers, their livelihood. These are control tactics, and the only outcome is you either capitulate and give in to their demands and say things word for word as they want you to say them, or you don't, and you lose it. You lose everything. Perhaps it's because I've been on both ends of that. I've been the person who shuns, and I've been the shunnee. And I can see it from all the sides. So watching what has taken place, to me, played like right out of a cult handbook. All the tactics that they've used are all about control. These things have nothing to do with race. All of these moral issues that sound very noble are not, they don't even come into this. And the reason it's so effective is because they hide behind that guise of nobility and pretending to protect the people who they feel need it the most. But that's not what it's about at all. If it was, they would be doing these things outside of Instagram. They would be leading their lives very differently. They'd be about action and not words. One of the biggest ringleaders of all, someone I know who led the fight against Nathan, and I believe Maria, and I'm not going to name them because that's not what I do. But that person is being investigated for fraud right now and possibly faces jail time. And yet this is a person who has influenced thousands of people to do the right thing because it's the moral thing. And it makes them feel better about themselves. And maybe she needed that because she's clearly not a great individual on her own. Something else that I've noticed in a lot of these ringleaders of social justice is that they come from places of a lot of pain and a lot of hurt, a lot of depression, a lot of mental illness. And I am not belittling that, because those are horrible, horrible things that no one should have to endure. But when those circumstances influence you to pass along that chain of abuse onto other people, I will speak out against that, and I will say that that is very, very wrong. That doesn't justify you then treating someone else as subhuman just because you have a disagreeing way of verbalizing something. And this all comes down to words. People are nitpicking every fucking little word. Well, he really meant this because he said that. They have alternate definitions for everything. And that's not a real thing. Those aren't arguments. Those are assertions. They have no basis in anything true or valid at all. I'm definitely going on a tangent here. Just bear with me. But these things just have to kind of come out. I'm going to briefly talk about Ravelry and their decision to ban Trump support. While I fully recognize their right to do so, it is a privately held website. They're completely within their right to do that. I disagree entirely with that statement. I am not a fan of Donald Trump. Anybody who's watched my podcast in the past knows this about me. Anyone who knows me in my personal life knows this about me. There is nothing that's going to make me a Donald Trump fan. That's all there is to it. Do I think every one of his supporters should be equated with white supremacy? Fuck no. Since when is it ever acceptable or a good idea to take an entire group of people and label them? This is supposed to be what this group of social justice warriors are fighting against, right? They don't want to be labeled. They don't want to be marginalized. Well, you just fucking did it. You did it big time. What Ravelry did was so hurtful to people. I've talked to many. I'm especially struck by older people who used Ravelry because of what a great resource it is, and it was their social interaction with a lot of people. And a lot of these older people, and I shouldn't say just older because this happens to other people, but I have a specific person in my mind who is an older woman who is unaware of a lot of things. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but she lives her life, and she voted for who she voted for, and she logs into Ravelry one day to find out that she is no longer welcome there. And to top it off, she's being called a white supremacist, or she's being put on par with white supremacists. The ease and casual way these insults are flung around by social justice warriors is really disturbing to me. Calling people Nazis and white supremacists and tossing those terms around so freely is really horrifically insulting to anyone who has suffered at the hands of those actual people. But they don't understand that. They don't understand that. I think they feel, I don't know what they feel. I honestly can't imagine calling somebody those names and feeling good about it. Do they not understand the history associated with those terms? Do they not really get? Are they unaware of what actual racism is? And what the Nazis did? Are we that far removed from history that we don't understand how truly horrific those people really are? And is it something that we label someone who dyes yarn because she likes to dress in 1940s clothing? Wow. Anyway, that's where I stand, in case you were wondering. I go into things a lot more in depth on my Instagram account, if you would like to read them, under Round Rabbit. If you want to read them and just leave me nasty comments on this podcast or on my Instagram account, I will probably remove you. And because I've been through this, you know, every now and then some SJW shows up and thinks they're going to enlighten me as if I have not heard these arguments 50 million times over. Like, oh, wait, she's never heard this before. I need to educate her. I've heard all your bullshit logic that is based in zero science, zero actual evidence of any kind to support those ideas. Yes, I know you all read the same books. Yeah, knock yourselves out because it's bullshit. These are books with zero citations. These are somebody's opinion that is not founded in reality. Am I diminishing the plight of the BIPOC community? No, I'm absolutely not. And I would assert that the opposite is happening with the work that the social justice warriors think they are doing. They are creating racism. They are creating divisions. They are doing all the things that they think they're preaching against, but they're absolutely not. Not at all. All right. I gotta look at my notes here and see what else I might have missed. I really don't want to focus on any of it too much, but I do think it is time to talk about things. What I really wish would happen is that people with some influence would start speaking out. So I can tell you that I've personally heard from a number of people who have huge followings on Instagram and are very influential within the knitting community, who do not agree with what has gone on at all. And on the surface, it might appear that they do, mostly because they've renounced Ravelry. Everybody stood with Ravelry. Or they unfollowed Nathan and Maria and anybody else who is problematic. Don't judge everybody because of what you see. Some of these people feel incredibly trapped and stuck and not quite sure what they should do about things. I can understand their fear about their business and their livelihood. I do get that. But because of the type of person that I am, I would find it very hard to be quiet and sit back while all these things happen and continue to happen. People need to speak out, and people with influence need to speak out. And you will be surprised at how much support there is for you. At this point, people are losing their fear and they want to rally. They're desperate to see anyone with some influence that disagrees with what's been going on. So I really encourage you, if you are that person, do it. Do it. These are people's lives that have been ruined. Do we need to actually have a successful suicide in order for anybody to care? Or would they even care? I kind of don't think they'd care at this point. That's how far away from humanity they've gone. I don't see any end to that. The only way it's going to end is if people stop being afraid and they start speaking out. And that's all there is to it. I'm not afraid. I don't have a lot to lose either. And I realize that. I'm in a position where I can say things. I don't give a crap what anybody says about me online. Please. It doesn't bother me. So I'm going to mention a couple places. If you want to learn more about this or what's been going on, I suggest you check out the Unsafe podcast. They've had a number of podcasts devoted specifically to this issue that has been taking place within the knitting community. There was also an extremely well done BBC radio documentary called The Purity Spiral, which features Nathan and Maria both, and it's excellent. It's really well done. I highly recommend it if you want to understand what's been happening. Having said all that, I'm looking down here at my notes to see what I have forgotten. I do want to thank people who have continued to follow me on Instagram. I've been really disappointed but not surprised by the people who, some of them I've considered friends or very good acquaintances, who felt the need to not only unfollow me but block me. Ooh, so scary. I'm such a threat. Heaven forbid you have, an idea that's not like your own pop up in your view. Again, cult, hello. When somebody's restricting what information you have access to, that's a sign you're in a cult. When they're telling you, don't follow so-and-so, and they threaten you, you're in a cult. When fear is the biggest driving force for not speaking out, you are beholden to a cult. Just keep that in mind. Anyway, to the people who have supported me and stuck around and have bothered to ask me what's going on and why are you saying all of these things, I want to understand. I thank you. You've got balls. There's a lot of people who at one time were quite supportive of my ideas. When I had my infamous crying over the election of Trump podcast, which you can still go watch if you really desire to, I had a lot of people that commiserated with me and felt very much, connected, maybe. And those same people, the people that I was defending, incidentally, have chosen to unfollow or block because they're too worried about what other people think about them. They're too worried about their own reputations. And I guess that's the majority of people. I've learned this a long time ago, is that most people will not speak out against actual injustice because that's always risky. It's easier to pick fake causes, create fake drama, nitpick words. That's so much easier than actually going after the real injustices in this world. Good luck to them. All right. Where am I? I guess I'm going to be done with that. I have no idea if any of that was coherent. Once I got started, I kind of started this and stopped it a million times, and I just decided to let it go. And I'm probably rambling. It's been a really long time since I've sat in this room and talked to myself, and it's odd, to say the least. But I hope I made some sense, and I hope I've encouraged people to think about speaking out. If you're like me, you don't sleep well at night if you don't speak out. And I like my sleep, so I'm going to do it. And I hope you'll join me. I really do. All right, let's get on to some knitting and sewing and blah, 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 all that stuff. I've been doing quite a lot over the last 2.5 years. I'm not going to show you actually everything that I've been doing. If you follow me on Instagram, you will see most of what I do. It's all there for you to see. But I'll talk about my current knitting project. I'm not a fast knitter. If you've followed me in the past, you will know this. I don't knit to crank things out. It's not what I do. I don't like to actually make more than I can wear. I'm pretty practical about it, and we're just really slow at everything I do. So this is a pattern that I picked up at Rhinebeck this past year. Oopsie, I'm dropping my bag. This is called the Paula tunic, and it is by Peace Felice, who makes wonderful yarn. I love their yarn. Anyway, I chose this piece because I really love a good layering piece. And look at that. That's like, I don't know, that's just good, right? You can do all kinds of things with that. You can wear sleeves under it. You don't have to wear sleeves. You can just be like, you know, whatever. I think it's great. So I got this pattern at Rhinebeck along with the yarn to make it. And I'm supposed to be knitting this with my friend Lorelei. I'm not sure how she's coming on it. She's a really fast knitter, so I kind of told her not to go fast on this because I wasn't going to go fast. And it's really, I mean, it's about as simple as it gets, right? It's really simple. It's 2 rectangles, and then you seam them up the side. One of the things that is making me go a little slower is that I am knitting this on needles, which anyone who has followed me in the past knows that sorry, I keep dropping my bag. I knit primarily, I'm a loom knitter. I have a lot of hand pain, and I've always found that needles really cramp my hands up pretty easily. So I've always been a loom knitter, and this pattern, if you are a loom knitter, this pattern would be very, 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 very simple to do on a loom. So it's completely, you can totally do that on a loom. But I decided to give it a try on needles because I have taught myself the Portuguese style of knitting, which I didn't even know about until my friend Lorelei told me. We were talking about, I don't even know, it was at Rhinebeck probably 2 years ago. We had this discussion. And she was just saying that like purling was so much easier and all of these things. So anyway, when I started doing my research into it, I discovered that as far as hand movements go, there's very little that takes place with Portuguese knitting because your yarn is coming from the front. So you're going to have a pin. Here's one of mine. So this is a magnet, actually. There's a magnet on the back, and you attach it to your shoulder, your left shoulder, so it's up here. And you're threading your yarn through that hook. So your yarn, or you can put it around your neck, but I like a pin. Your yarn is coming from the front of the project. And the only movement that you have in your hands is really your left thumb. You're flicking your yarn with your left thumb. Long story short, it's quite comfortable for me to do. And I really, really like it. So I've been knitting on, I'll take these off. I got myself a beautiful set of, what are these called? Leica? I forget if that's how you pronounce it. Driftwood needles. They're lovely. I like them. Though I do want to get a set of metal needles as well. What am I doing here? I'm all discombobulated. So I finished the first panel of my tunic. As you can see, big giant rectangle. Yay! It's just got a nice seed stitch border. This yarn, look how pretty this is. Can we look at that? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful yarn. This is Peace Fleece worsted. I think the colorway is called Marble Mesa, I think. I don't have it handy. So this is the first panel done. I'm working on the second. The second is right here. I'm getting there. I can't really say that I'm working on this diligently. I kind of do a couple rows here and there. My gauge is all over the place because knitting on needles is pretty foreign to me at this point. I have knit on needles in the past, but it's been many, 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 many years. At like over 25 probably. So it's kind of like learning a new thing, although I don't know, kind of like riding a bike in a way, but it's interesting. Anyway, if you have hand pain, while you knit with needles. I do recommend you try out the Portuguese style. There is a brand new book, it comes out, I think, next week, which I've got on pre-order on Amazon about Portuguese knitting. Super excited about that. There are also some really good craftsy classes, or I guess it's called Blueprint now, My Blueprint, something like that. Those are great too. That's what I watched, and I cannot remember the name of the instructor. Wong. Andrea Wong, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, so here's this. And I hope to finish it soon. I'm making mine a little more fitted than what is seen in the picture. So that's the front picture. The picture on the inside is even baggier on the model, as you can see. I am making mine a little tighter. I want mine to be closer to this, but even actually more a little fitted. So I'm hoping that's what's gonna happen. We'll find out. It might end up looking really, really stupid, but we'll see. Yeah, so that's that. What else can I say about it? Here's what this yarn looks like in a cake. Isn't it lovely? Look at all those colors. I love it. And it's super forgiving. Like I said, my tension is all over the place. It's very, I kind of feel like a beginner in that aspect, but it blocked out just beautifully, kind of made me look like I know what I'm doing, and that's always a good thing. Okay, so that's that. That's the garment I have on my needles at the moment. I will catch up on something that I talked about over 2 years ago on my podcast. It was supposed to be a bit of a cal of sorts. It's kind of embarrassing to talk about it now. There were a few people that were doing it with me. I have no idea what happened to them or their projects. I do actually have a group on Ravelry for those who are still on Ravelry. Admittedly, I have not looked at this group in over 2 years. I do, in fact, still have a Ravelry account, but it stores my everything I've made. I do hope one day there is an alternative to Ravelry because, just because, right? Anywho, so this was a blanket that I started a long time ago called the 64 crayons blanket, and it's made with Noro, which is my favorite yarn ever because I'm obsessed with color and nobody does color like Noro. So in this bag, this is one of my own bags. See, Round Rabbit. I made this a couple years ago. I was doing a lot of machine knitting and incorporating that into some project bags. I like stripes, as you can see. So yeah, I have quite a few of these panels made for this blanket. And they're gorgeous, right? Check them all out. So I only have, what do I have? I have to make a couple more of these wide ones. I think I need to do 2 more wide ones. And then I think I'm done. I think it only has 2 narrow and 3 wide. Maybe. Oh no. 3 of each. I thought I had finished this. Never mind. Whatever. I apparently have more to make. So my next colorway is going to be these 2 gorgeous. Oh, look at these. Look at these. Oh my God. Do you want to eat those like I do? Am I the only one? Just beautiful. Nothing makes me happier than colors. So I'm hoping there's good contrasts in those 2 to get some really nice stripes out of that. I'm really excited about one day having a blanket. Because I am so slow, finishing something of that size has always been, I mean, it's a bit like thinking about taking a trip to Mars. just seems so unattainable. But the closer I get to it, the more I realize that it's totally attainable. I just got to keep plugging along. So these have all been done on a loom. It's a needle pattern, easily done on a knitting loom. And the loom that I've been using is this one. This is the Authentic Knitting Board all-in-one loom. So yeah, I will continue to do these on a loom because I'd like everything to be, you know, matching my gauges and my tensions and all that jazz. And I do love my knitting looms. I love the tight knit that I can create, the tight dense fabric that I can create on a loom. It's not to say that I can't do that on needles. I'm definitely getting to that point where I'm getting the look that I want, but I am a tight knitter and I like that. I really like a dense fabric. I cannot stand a wussy little flitty thing. I want substantial, I want some meat on my knitting, right? So if you're one of the people that was knitting this with me, I hope you haven't frogged it yet and maybe you want to bring it back, because look at this. How gorgeous is this blanket gonna be? Oh my God. When it is done in 10 years, I'm gonna wrap up in this shit and just parade around town in that. It's gonna be awesome. All right, what's my time? Oh, I'm at 47 minutes. Not too bad. Let's see. Next thing. Oh, I've been working on some really fun little hand sewing project. Well, it's not entirely hand sewing, but for Christmas, I got these books. I had asked my husband to get me, because that's how I do Christmas. I say I want this and this and this, and then I'm happy. So I've been wanting these for a couple of years, and it's Luna Lappin, and she's a bunny. Of course she is, because I love bunnies. Anyway, it's how to make her, and then there's outfits, there's patterns for all of her various clothes and outfits, and it's lovely. And then there's another book, Luna Lappin's Friends, and I just found out there's a third book coming out this summer. So excited, because I'm 12. Anyway, this is Luna. She is still a work in progress. Check her out. How cute is this, right? I got her on a little stand here to make it easier to show her. Her fancy little ears. Check out the coat. So I'm not done with her. Obviously, she needs a face. She needs eyes and a nose. The coat has a bunch of little buttons that need to be sewn on here. She also, how cute is this? I have her sitting next to my sewing machine, and she makes me all kinds of stupid happy. I've been keeping her and all her supplies in this bag that I test made. I'm actually not, I don't even know if I'm supposed to show this yet because it hasn't been released yet. It's supposed to be released this month. So I won't tell you too much about it, except that it's awesome. Check it out. There's like a pocket here. I keep like some hand cream. This is really good hand cream, rose scented. I've got some lip gloss. Anyway, I'm really rambling at this point. I've got my neck light, which is crucial for hand sewing because I'm blind as a bat, so I need these and my glasses. But this houses everything really, really nicely. I've got my needle keeper in here, all kinds of things. Here's a little dress I haven't completed yet. I just have to sew down the facing. How cute is that? I mean, come on. Who doesn't need a tiny rabbit with a wardrobe? I ask you. Love it. So that's been really, really enjoyable. One thing I do recommend if you want to try it out, do yourself a favor and get yourself some really good needles. These are Tulip brand needles. The difference in a sharp needle when you are hand sewing, oh, you need it. You definitely need that in your life. Yeah. So that's that. I kind of feel really funny. I feel like when your parents want you to pull out your accordion and play for the strangers. Come on, honey, show them what you can do. That's what I just did there with that rabbit. The last thing that I'll talk about that I've been sewing are some new little wristlet bags that I've been making. Again, if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen these, but these are super fun. These are just like so colorful, and what I've been doing is using up all my scraps. I have a huge basket of fabric scraps that I can't get myself to throw out because I can't do that. And this has been using up those scraps so well. So the front and back, totally made up of scraps. Has a cool little clippy handly thing. It's fully lined. It's perfect for throwing some cash and a lip gloss and your cell phone if it's not one of those giant ass big ones. They're awesome. So all of these have sold. I put these on in the shop yesterday. And they all sold, which is awesome, and thank you to everybody who purchased one. I'm definitely making more of these because they're really fun to make, and it's really putting a dent in my fabric stash, which is funny because I am excited about that, and at the same time, the hoarder in me is saying, oh no, my fabric scraps are disappearing. This is how, yeah, I don't know what that is. I can make more. I mean, who needs to have a giant basket of fabric scraps laying around? Me, apparently. Good Lord. All right, y'all. I think that's it. I think I've covered everything. I'm going to play this back. If I can figure out how to get this onto my computer. It's been so long that I don't even remember how I did that. So we'll have to figure that one out. But I know this has been overshadowed greatly by the topic I started with. And I'm really glad that it is because it needs to have attention drawn to it. I hope I am much more eloquent when I write. I stumble over my words when I'm speaking. That's why writing is really my thing. But I just really want to encourage people to speak out. If you think what's been going on is wrong, say something. Say something. And if you want, shoot me a message and tell me you're going to do it. And I'll make sure that you get the support you need for doing that. And the support is immense. It's immense. It's bigger than them. And they don't realize that. They just squawk really, really loud. So they think, they can only hear their own voice. Not true. We're so much bigger than that. But I do want to discourage anyone from acting in kind. Don't retaliate to them in the way they have behaved towards us. By us, I mean wrong thinkers. Such a stupid saying because it's so opposite of that. Anyway, I've done enough rambling for now. I'm sure I'll pick this up. I'm going to try to get back to my weekly podcast. And I hope that I will see you all again. And have a really great week. I can't talk anymore, so I'm done.